we just hit 10k, man. It is crazy, bro. We just hit 10k. I just want to shout out all the boys who subscribed to the channel, man. Honestly, when I started YouTube, I didn't expect to hit 10k in 5 or 6 months. I generally thought I was gonna hit that in a year, but the fact that we hit 10k is insane, man. I want to shout out to every single person that subscribed to the channel, man. We're going up. It's only up from here, man. So I really appreciate that. Yo, what's good YouTube, it's Future1k, and in today's video we're going to show you how to select the best keybinds and settings for when you first switch to keyboard and mouse. On screen now is what I'll be covering in the video, as well as the relevant timestamps. I recommend watching the video in its entirety if this is your first time. If this is your second or third time, you can go ahead and skip the video to the section that you want to see. The reason I say this is because I get a lot of questions in the comment section, and just watching the video will allow you to get all your questions answered. And if I missed anything, go ahead and leave a comment and I'll make sure to respond to you as soon as I can. If you're coming from my Twitch channel, I will be covering the binds I'm currently using 5 months into keyboard and mouse, and I also will be explaining why I chose the specific binds and settings. If you didn't already know, I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday on Twitch, so come to the Twitch stream by hitting the first link in the description and dropping a follow, as well as turning on post notifications. Like I said, feel free to leave a comment down below if you have a question, and with that being said, let's get into the video. So now we're in the game, guys. I'm gonna go through my binds and my settings. I'm gonna show you exactly what I'm using 5 months into keyboard and mouse. Bear in mind, a lot has changed since the first week progression video. I've changed binds, I've changed my sensitivity, so this is the most up-to-date video. If anything changes, I will keep you guys updated. So if there's any changes in the future, the best way to know is to actually come to my Twitch channel and to ask me directly while I'm live. Those are usually when I make updates, because on YouTube it's hard to make an update video every every time I change. So going straight into the settings, as you can see, I play full screen. I play in a regular resolution, and I will talk about stretch res later in the video. I play 144 FPS purely because I have a 144 Hz monitor, and I don't see any point in upgrading to 240 FPS unless I decide to take competitive seriously. In my opinion, the jump from 144 FPS to 240 FPS isn't as much as the jump from 60 to 240, so I'm fine with 144. I put my brightness on max purely because season 3 is a super dark season, so before it used to be like an 115. I play on Dutronaut 5 just because I've been playing on that for a while. It used to help with seeing into the storm. These are my graphic settings. I play on pretty much low except from view distance. The important binds in this section, as you can see, I'm gonna scroll through. You guys can just pause the video at any point if you feel like I'm going too fast. I think the main thing is I don't play with confirm edit on release. I will be talking about this later in the video. And yeah, that is the settings here. HUD settings, these are the HUD settings. You can pause the video. Into Sens, so this is one thing I will be talking about later in the video too. I'm going to make an entirely new video on aiming and sensitivity, so look for that in the coming weeks. But I play on 12% X and Y at 800 DPI. I use a glorious Model O, and I play at 800 DPI. This is comfortable for me, but in my opinion, I say if you are new to keyboard and mouse, play on a lower Sens. I know a lot of you don't have XXL mouse pads. I do. But if you have a smaller mouse pad, go as low as you can without, compromising your aim, because it's really hard to aim without aim, especially if you're coming from controller. So I definitely recommend getting a lower Sens. So I play on 12X and Y, 800 DPI, 42.5 target to sense, and 55 scope sense. I don't really snap that much. I do play on controller from time to time, but I do not have my updated sense and like settings on this account. I have it on my controller account, so I won't be talking about that in this video. Voice settings, this is the settings that I run here. Again, pause the video at any point. I don't use visualized sound effects. I did used to use them at the start of keyboard and mouse, but I've changed because I just feel like they're a bit of a distraction. And these are my keybinds, so this is going to be the most important, and I'm going to be running through each keybind at a slow pace just to understand why I picked these keybinds. So for the first one, obviously WASD. Now I know a lot of people use different movement binds like RDFG, and I will be talking about that later in the video, but I just went with WASD purely because I've had experience with WASD movement before, so it's just more natural for me. I use auto run on X just because that was a free bind, and crouch is on left shift for me because left control just didn't feel comfortable. I reload with middle mouse button instead of R because I just feel like that's a comfortable reload. That's because I did copy, for those of you that have watched my 1 week progression video, I did copy Cypher's binds initially, and then I made changes to suit my playstyle and what's comfortable for me. So he had the middle mouse button as reload, and that's been my reload button ever since. My interact button is mouse wheel down. This helps when you're getting into chest fights, 50-50 in chest. If you just spam mouse wheel down, you can pick up the gun before someone who has it on you know, a keyboard bind. My pickaxe is E, so I use E for my pickaxe here, which is super easy for me to hit, and that was because it was a free bind. I think it used to be on Q or on a different bind. I'm not exactly sure what my pickaxe used to be, but I now rock it on E. For my weapons, I use 1 through 5. Now in the beginning, I didn't used to have it through 1 through 5. I just didn't feel super comfortable with 1 through 5, but now I feel like 1 through 5 is really the best bind for weapons. It's because you're not really switching weapons too much in Fortnite. They're not really the most important binds. I mean, your shotgun is usually the most important in build fights and box fights. So as long as that's on a comfortable bind like number 1 and you can comfortably reach it, I definitely suggest going for the weapon binds. But if you have smaller hands, I definitely think you can find other binds. You know, I was using ER 345 in the beginning, but I think 1 and 2 are really good binds to use. And then onto my build binds. So these are some of the most important binds in Fortnite. So for my wall, I use mouse button. I use the front mouse button 4, I believe. Okay. And the reason I use this is because it allows me to build a wall and to strafe at the same time. So I don't have to take my fingers off of A and D while using my wall bind. And this is super important for when you're in box fights. Like if you're trying to hold a wall. Before it used to be on Q, and I felt like not being able to press A while pressing a wall was something that was an issue for me. So I did change it to my front mouse button, which was previously my floor bind. So then I moved floor to Q. So I basically swapped my floor on my wall. It did take a while to get used to. However, it has definitely improved my building, especially in build fights and box fights. Stairs has remained as the back mouse button, aka mouse button 5. There's nothing much to say about that. So for my roof bind, I use C, and I primarily press this with my ring finger. If I'm strafing left and right, I do press it with my thumb. However, it's just preference, but I do use C as my roof. For trap, I use V. I usually press this with my thumb too. This is for placing launch pads mainly because traps are removed. And my rest of my binds, there's nothing really too much has changed since my last video. I mean, I use edit as F, so that's just super easy for me to press because it's right next to D. I press that with my index finger, and I use mouse wheel up also for resetting and for building edits. So this allows me to scroll wheel reset. I can never say that, but yeah, this allows me to scroll wheel reset. If you guys don't know what that is, definitely search it up. It's a very good mechanic for keyboard and mouse players. So if you are on keyboard and mouse, I highly recommend using a scroll wheel reset, whether it's mouse wheel up or mouse wheel down. And the rest of my binds, I use ping is R, push to talk is left O. I just press that with my thumb. And yeah, that's about it, man. Nothing else really too crazy. Controller binds. So my controller binds, I'm not really gonna get into in this video, but I do use custom binds. This is just a little preview of it. But if I do a controller video, I'll do a whole separate controller settings and explain why I went through them. But just for the complexity of the video, for the completeness of the video, I will show you this. These are my dead zones. I do play double claw. So yeah, I do play double claw. So this is my controller. I do play double claw. And I do use control freaks when I do play. I put them on the right stick. So yeah, that's my controller. I'm just briefly covering it. So that completes the binds and settings section, and now I'm going to move on to stretched res. I'm probably going to put a gameplay over this while I talk over these sections specifically, and probably get rid of the webcam. But yeah, remember, again, you can go through the timestamps to find the section you want to hear me talk about. So at this point in the video, we're going to be talking about stretched res. So stretched res has become very popular in the Fortnite competitive community. However, for more casual players, stretch res just isn't really a great experience, especially from a graphical perspective. For me, I have a very powerful computer that's capable of running Fortnite at the highest settings at high FPS, and so for me as a content creator, stretch res just doesn't make sense. For my viewers on YouTube, stretch res just doesn't look good, and I tend to use a lot of my gameplays in my videos, so having stretch res just doesn't make sense for me. However, if you're a person that plans on playing competitive, or playing arena a lot, or something that where you need a competitive advantage, I would recommend stretch res. Now, I'm not entirely sure what people run, if it's like 1650 or whatever the stretch res is, but I do have people in my community who do run stretch res. So if you want any pointers on how to run it, go ahead and join the Discord by hitting the link in the description, and then type something in general along the lines of, I'm looking to play stretch res, can anyone help me? And I'm sure you will find what you need, or alternatively you can just go on YouTube and search out best stretch reses. For this next part, I'm going to be talking about edit on release. So for edit on release, this is something that I've had mentioned to me in my comments for so long. People have been spamming edit on release, try edit on release, and it's something I've been hesitant to try, purely because when you change something in Fortnite, it always takes a while to get used to. And for me, I definitely want to continue to elevate my game, but I don't want to do anything that's drastically going to change how I play. Now, I noticed with edit on release, even though it can help you edit faster, you can't hold edits and do things in a certain way that you can without edit on release. So for me, if I'm going to try edit on release, it's probably only going to be for like a video where I try edit on release for like a week and see how it changed my editing speed. But for the most part, I haven't tried it, so I can't really tell you whether or not you should be using edit on release. You should probably watch a different video for that. But me personally, I don't use edit on release. I think it's going to maybe not really work with my playstyle, but for you, it may work. So if you are just starting off, it might be beneficial to try it, because I've heard that it will improve your edit speed, but for the most part, I don't use it. If you've made it this far into this video, I appreciate you, man. Go ahead and leave a like on this video, because you're clearly enjoying it to be making it this far. And look, I'm going to put my socials up on the screen now. Please go ahead and follow me on social media, man. I post clips on Instagram, I tweet very regularly, and also make content on other platforms like Twitch and TikTok. So if you can go ahead and drop me a follow on either of those platforms, it would be greatly appreciated, man. So yeah, going back into the video, and for the next part, we're going to be talking about aim and sensitivity. So this is something that I briefly covered, and it's something that I'm just going to touch upon really quickly, because aiming and sensitivity is probably one of the hardest parts that you're going to get used to when you're switching to keyboard and mouse for the first time, for the first few weeks, first few days. People switch to keyboard and mouse, and even after a few months, they still don't have sensitivity and their aim down. The main thing with aim is patience, okay? Obviously, there are things you can do to improve your aim more rapidly, but aim tends to come with time, man. We don't have things like aim assist, but we do have things like Fortnite aim training maps, Kovacs, and lowering your sensitivity. I will go into more detail in a future video on these things and really break down how I got my aim to a decent level. I don't think I'm the best aimer in the world, but I can hit my shots, especially in close range shotgun fight. And realistically, I didn't do anything special. I just played the game. And that's something that, is just muscle memory. It comes with time. One thing I definitely recommend is not changing your sense too often and keeping it as low as your mouse pad will allow. That way you have more control and you tend to get used to the muscle memory. I know there are people out there like Mr. Savage who have a high sense and they make it work. However, they practice their sensitivity a lot, to the point where they've got the muscle memory down. So in my opinion, if you can afford to get a large mouse pad or a larger mouse pad in the standard size, then you can afford to drop your sense down, and that will really drastically improve your aim, not just in long range, but in close range too, because you can still do flick shots with low sense. You just have to flick a bit more. And for the next section, now we're going to be talking about optimal binds, okay? So now with optimal binds, this is something that has been the rage in the Fortnite community, especially in the competitive scene. I know Jarian has talked about optimal binds, and I definitely have watched his video when it comes to optimal binds. If you don't know what optimal binds are, essentially they are binds that take the least effort for you to press and give you the best results in terms of consistency, in terms of what bind you use the most in terms of putting your build binds in the right place without affecting, you know, your movement, without affecting how you have to aim. And it's basically just what's going to give you the most pleasant experience. In my opinion, if you are starting on keyboard and mouse now, I highly suggest getting optimal binds, okay? Because you're at the point where you're fresh. You are a clean slate, so you're not trying to reverse muscle memory. But if you've already been playing on keyboard and mouse and you already have your set bind, I'm not entirely sure that switching to optimal bind is going to elevate your game that much more. I tested this out personally. I used to use sypherpk's binds and I made a few adjustments, and then recently I switched to optimal binds, as you saw earlier in the video if you didn't skip the beginning section. And now with those binds, I do feel a bit of a difference, and in certain situations having a more optimal bind has helped me clutch up in situations where I may have died. But in the grand scheme of things, knowing your binds and being comfortable with your binds is more important than having optimal binds. And that's what some of these YouTubers won't tell you. I'm being real with you. You don't have to have these optimal binds. I've seen some of the most competitive players have crazy binds and still place in the money. So for you, if you're fresh, get optimal binds. Watch a HDR video on optimal binds. If you're not fresh and you have your binds, honestly, I recommend just sticking it out and learning those binds. Unless they're completely horrible and you feel like you completely messed them up, sticking with those binds and sticking with the muscle memory that you've built is gonna benefit you in the long run. When it comes to binds in general, I think going through and picking your favorite content creators binds as a template, if you literally don't know where to start, use those as a template and then change things that you don't like. I'm not saying just copy them blindly, I'm saying use those as a template, because a lot of people that start on keyboard and mouse, they don't know what to pick. There's a lot of options, there's a lot of buttons on the keyboard. So the main thing is to really use those as a template. Whether you use clix, whether you use me, whether you use sypherpk, whether you use bugha, whoever you want to use those as a template and then make changes accordingly, man, because that's what's going to get you the best results. I also want to touch on different movement binds. I know RDFG is a movement bind that people have been using. I know YouTuber Justical uses RDFG. If you are completely new to keyboard and mouse, as in you've never ever played a keyboard and mouse WASD game before, RDFG could potentially be some good binds for you, purely because you have more options in terms of what buttons you can press to the left of your movement bind. So let me give you an example. Everything on E, S, X, Z, A, W, those are binds you can potentially press. However, if you're on WASD, you really only have Q, tab, left caps lock, not left cap lock, just caps lock, left shift, left control. You know, you don't really have as many binds to the left. But yeah, it could potentially be the way for you, but I don't use those purely because I had WASD experience before playing Fortnite. So it's really up to you. I'm not experienced enough to talk about RDFG, but I do want to put this in a video because I want to cover everything in one video. If there's anything I missed in the video, please go ahead and put it in the comment section, and I will consider doing a part 2 to this video in the future if you want me to talk about a specific, setting or bind that I may have missed. But I just want to let that be known that there are other movement binds like RDFG. I've even seen TFGH used for movement, but it's really up to you, man. Just play around and look at videos before starting your bind, especially if you haven't got your equipment yet and you're just waiting on a new PC or you're waiting on a keyboard and mouse. Go ahead and watch videos and see, okay, why did they use this? Why did they use that? What's going to be best for me? So moving on to recommendations, honestly, I'm not going to waste your time. I definitely recommend WASD movement, and I definitely recommend using my bind. And I know a lot of people are going to say, yes, of course he's going to recommend his binds, but hear me out, okay? I made the switch to keyboard and mouse later than most of the pros who play keyboard and mouse. So I've had the time to see all of the advancements we've made. A lot of the pros who started this game started in season 1 and 2 and 3 when certain techniques weren't in the game, when things like Mongrel Classic, when box fighting wasn't a thing, when a lot of things just weren't in the game, when people didn't use cones. But now I've made my binds after the fact, when I know pretty much everything there is to know about Fortnite post World Cup. So I've carefully constructed my binds with everything in mind, okay? So I definitely recommend, if you're starting new and you're watching this video and you literally don't know where to start, copy my binds, because those binds are the most optimal binds, but they're also some of the easiest binds to learn, okay, from scratch. They utilize all fingers, so you're going to be able to really be optimal and to be pressing binds with different buttons, especially your build binds. Your build binds are going to be so smooth because you have your wall on your front mouse button, you have your ramp on your back mouse button, your floor on Q, and your cone on C. So that means you're pressing 2 builds with your right thumb, you're pressing 1 build with your ring finger on your left, and you're pressing another build with either your index finger on your left or your thumb on your left. Okay, and that way your building is going to be super smooth, and you're not going to find yourself in a situation where you have to pick movement over building. And for the most part, you know, you're not going to find yourself conflicting in binds or seeing like you have any issues. So I highly recommend you copy my binds if you can. If not, what I would recommend is going and watching a Jarian video on optimal bind, because those are the videos that I use to pick the binds that I have now. Now look, a lot of you are going to go in the comment section and say, hey, I don't want to copy your binds, I don't like this, I don't like that, and that's fine. Go ahead and pick your binds, but I'm talking to the people that are completely new, who are open-minded. If you prefer having your crouch on left control, put your crouch on left control. Go ahead and do that. You know, if you prefer having, you know, your wall on Q or on something else, go ahead and do that. But I'm putting this out there for the people, you know, who don't know where to put their stuff at, man. If you made it this far to the end of the video, comment Fuja Honcho underneath the video. Fuja Honcho if you made it this far to the video. Fuja Honcho only in the comment section below. In summary, guys, look, we covered everything, man. We covered my binds and my settings, we covered stretch rest, we covered edit on release, we covered aim and sensitivity, we covered optimal binds, we covered different movement binds like RDFG, and we even covered recommendations if you're starting out from scratch. So look, guys, if you made it this far in this video, go ahead and drop a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And look, man, that's all I have to say for the video, man. If you guys want a part 2, if there's anything I missed, let me know. Okay, and with that being said, keep gaming, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.